Why I'm moving on from aesthetics. The story is actually very personal to me, and it actually started before I even got into medical school. I was on holiday with my family and I took this textbook with me on holiday. That's how keen I was. And unfortunately, my mum at the time was experiencing some minor health issues, nothing that we were particularly worried about. And I started to read this textbook, wondering about the sorts of things that it might be. And it was actually on this holiday that I realized something really awful, which was while we were walking home one night from a night out, and I kept looking back and thinking, why is my mum taking so long to walk up this hill? And I was actually getting frustrated. And I'd been reading the textbook that day, and I was walking next to Miranda, and I saw her silhouette down this long hill in France, slightly stooped over and shuffling, and I knew it. I knew it right then that she had Parkinson's disease. And it was really hard for me because I couldn't tell anyone else because I didn't want to upset her, and she didn't know. And my granddad had it, so we knew as a family how bad things would get. I'd lived for 5 years as a child. I'd helped care for my nan when she stayed with us. And I knew that was going to happen to my mum, but I didn't want her to know a day sooner than it had to be because there's nothing you can really do about it. But this unfortunately then unraveled over the next 20 years. I did as many things as I could to help my mum first. We got married a bit sooner. And then the second awful thing happened on my wedding night, which was that she broke her pelvis while dancing towards the end of the night. So she had an awful combination of Parkinson's disease and osteoporosis. And my mum, who'd always been the biggest energy in my life, was basically slowly dismantled by these two diseases. She broke bones every 6 months or so. She was in and out of wheelchairs, and she suffered tremendously before dying when she was about 67. Aside from having to see my mum go through this and slowly deteriorate and do as many things as I could to try and give her as much of a life as I could as being a son, so I had my children a bit earlier, got married a bit earlier, all these things, ultimately the biggest impact was when I was about 35, she suddenly crashed and got a lot worse all of a sudden. And it was actually only then that I think it really sunk in how bad things were going to get, and also how this actually had implications for me and my family as well. And that was something dropped inside me when I suddenly realized bad things do not just happen to other people, they happen to me, they happen to people like me. It was a world shift that suddenly meant, shit, like this thing called life, this very precious thing that we all enjoy so much, it is fleeting, and you are out of control of a huge amount of it. And for years before then, I'd had on my to-do list, find out how to prevent Parkinson's. I literally wrote it on my Google Keep, and I used to research and occasionally Google to see if anything came up. And you get things like, have a Helicobacter pylori test, and maybe it's bacteria, and maybe it's pesticides, which you can do almost nothing about. It's really hard to eat everything organic. And I used to just wheel spin over this. In 2015, I had a major anxiety situation relating to it. As my mum got worse, I suddenly realized that I was vulnerable too. And when I was injecting one day, I saw a little shake. And I'd always known I was a very stable injector. I was told that on the first day I was ever injecting, oh, you're very stable. So it kind of got built into me that I was. And as I was looking down and I saw this shake, this thought just entered my head of like, it could be you, and you could be going down this route. And I had 2 very young children at that time, very vulnerable part of life as well. And it just sent me in this loop of thinking about what would happen if it happened to me next. And not being able to have a test for it, there's no test for it. So I just got stuck worrying tremendously. I had about 4 to 6 months of ridiculous anxiety. You wouldn't tell by looking at me. Everything carried on normal, but I had huge stress. I got all sorts of physical symptoms for anxiety, like burning in my chest, tinnitus, which has never really gone away. I had palpitations, I had this burning in my arm from worrying all the time. And anyway, what that was me coming to terms with the fact that I am as vulnerable as everyone else, and then trying to get whatever control I could back. And that's really when I started to really obsess over, like, what can we do to prevent this process that could be leading to me and my family and everyone else getting these horrible diseases. And there was never a solid answer until this new revolution that's starting, or called longevity. And there are some key things that have happened that have suddenly made me realize that this is where our attention needs to go. Like, this precious life that we've all been given, there are things you can actually do and validate that are going to put you in a way better position to at least get these things when you're much older, not when you're, my mum was only 8 years older than I am now, which doesn't seem like very far off at all. So what are the things that you can do now became an obsession? And the exciting thing is, not only are there things that you can do, but there are also tests that you can run that validate that the effort you're putting in is doing something. Because that's something I always struggled with, is how do I know this supplement or this activity or this thing I'm doing is actually making any difference? And there's a building body of knowledge that is telling us that this is possible. And this is actually where I think the future is lying. And I think, strangely and ironically, it's medical aesthetics that might be in a pole position to actually lead some of this change, because we have a huge network of clinicians who are willing and able to learn new stuff and to do these tests and to give people the right information and even the interventions. That's all going to be based in the private sector, because most governments do not think aging is part of disease yet. They are going to be reacting to disease for at least another 10 years, while the private sector can be proactively reducing the risk of getting disease. And this is tremendously exciting. And I think basically the rest of my life is going to be about trying to help clinicians bring the best science forward to help prevent disease and aging, so that we actually make our patients younger from the inside. It's absolutely happening. It's actually here already. As is often the case, the revolution is already here, but most people don't know about it. And I would love to play a role in help bringing this information to you guys and to the rest of the world, so that we can start to implement changes that really prevent people getting these life-ruining diseases. So that is my mission for the next, well, let's hope forever, but at least the next 20 or 30 years. And I hope that you'll join me, and I hope you're excited about it. I think you will be, because every time I talk to someone, they are excited. They're already taking supplements. They're already trying to look after their health. They're already aware of these things. But the problem is we don't have people we can trust teaching us this stuff. There's too many people sending mixed messages, and that's something I'd love to contribute to, is what is the evidence base that actually allows you to intervene in a way that is minimal risk, maximum benefit, and that you believe really will work, rather than just trying random things that change and shift with the breeze. So if you want to get onto this train, the longevity train is about to set off, and you want to be involved in the first wave, make sure you comment longevity below and we will send you the link.